On this episode of OC Unsolved, we talk about the sinking of the MOL Comfort, a container ship which sank in a shocking turn of events in 2013, splitting in half and eventually foundering. What happened to the ship, and how did she split? Let's get into it. The MOL Comfort was built as the APL Russia in 2008 for American Patriot Lines, formerly American President Lines, in Nagasaki, Japan. She was 316 meters long and 45 meters wide, with a capacity of 8,110 TEU. She was mostly used for carrying cargo between mainland USA and places like Puerto Rico, Hawaii, Alaska, and other American territories. Eventually, 4 years after being built, she was sold to Mitsui OSK Lines to go between Europe and Asia. On the 11th of June 2013, she departed Singapore bound for Jeddah in Saudi Arabia, cruising at a speed of 18 knots except for off the coast of Yemen, where she went to full speed of 22 knots to avoid missiles from the ongoing Yemeni civil war. Some things never change, it seems. In the middle of the Arabian Sea on June the 16th, they were encountering a storm, going 20 knots. Over the evening, the weather got worse and the waves grew to 6 meters high, forcing them to slow down to make the ride smoother. 40 minutes later, a large rogue wave struck the ship's bow, causing a jerk to the forward. Flooding was then detected in the keel, where pipes ran along the ship. Then, the empty fuel tanks began filling up when they were supposed to be empty. The crew went to a corridor that was supposed to be used for access through the ship. They noticed that sections of the ship were moving independently and that there was a crack in the middle of the ship. She broadcasted a distress signal at 9 a.m. on the 17th of June, and immediately the Yantian Express made its way for the MOL Comfort. As containers fell in the water, however, launching lifeboats became increasingly more difficult. Eventually, both of them were launched, and they made their way to the Yantian Express. As they began loading people onto the Yantian Express, a large wave rushed into the lifeboat, capsizing it and sinking, spilling people into the water. Amazingly, all were saved. A salvage team was sent over to find the ship, and a week later, they found the ship. The bow was still in great shape, and it seemed the watertight compartments worked. The bow was brought under tow and began being towed to Oman, but the stern was a lot harder to save. The stern later began to go under the next day and sank in 4,000 meters of water. Another week later, off the coast of Oman, the bow caught fire, but due to the storm, it could not be brought under control. The Indian Coast Guard cutter Samandra Pahuri came over and tried to put the fire out. By the next day, all of the containers were destroyed, and the bow section sank in 3,000 meters of water. Thankfully, no oil spill was reported. The sinking of the MOL Comfort was the largest loss of containers in a single incident, leading to the loss of $500 million in containers. And with that, let's get into the theories. The first theory is that structural defects caused the ship to snap in half. Luckily, there are a few sister ships to the MOL Comfort still sailing. All of these ships were found to have defects, with the MOL Commitment specifically having been found to have double bottom and ballast tank deformations, a damaged duct on the keel, and deformed bottom plates. It was within the location of the same tanks that filled up on the MOL Comfort. All sister ships were taken to dry dock and received upgrades and strengthening, and that seems to have fixed it, as all ships are now still sailing. The second theory is that the ship was loaded improperly. This is supported by the fact that a similar event happened prior to this, when the MSC Napoli broke in half in the English Channel, that being caused by improper balancing of the containers, after the loading crew loaded containers with a different weight than what was declared, leading to an imbalance of weight that broke the ship in two. No one has visited the wreck of either section, and we may never know the true cause of the disaster. The sinking of the MOL Comfort caused an inquiry into the safety of container ships, but without a definitive answer, we can't be certain on what we can take away from this incident. With the two sections at the bottom of the sea, millions of containers lost, and many unanswered questions, the sinking of the MOL Comfort will remain unsolved.